Deep in the endless dark of space, a signal began to whisper across the stars. It was weak, broken, almost lost to the silence of the void. But still it traveled, bouncing from dying satellites and forgotten stations. The message was simple, a single repeating phrase. "We are dying." Most of the galaxy ignored it, calling it just another ghost transmission. To them, it was not worth attention. Not worth risk, but for humanity, things were different. Aboard the exploration vessel ISS Resolute, Captain Mara Chen stood on the bridge. Staring at the blinking signal on the main display, her crew was quiet, listening to the haunting sound that repeated through the speakers. It was faint, like a cry from another world. Mara frowned, her hand resting on the console. "Can you clean it up?" she asked her communications officer. "Trying, Captain," he replied, fingers dancing across the holographic keys. After a moment, the voice grew clearer, still distorted but now undeniably desperate. "We are dying, anyone, please respond." Mara looked at her crew, her heart heavy. The galaxy was vast and cruel, and many species had learned not to answer such calls. Sometimes they were traps, sometimes they were lost civilizations already gone. But humanity had always been different. They were explorers, fighters, and rescuers all in one. "Plot the origin," Mara ordered. Her first officer, Commander Hask, raised an eyebrow. "Captain, the signal comes from beyond mapped space," he warned. "It's the silent expanse, the silent expanse. A region every galactic navigator avoided. Stories said ships went in and never came out. No stars, no comms, just endless dark. But that was exactly where the signal came from." Mara stared at the holographic star map, the coordinates glowing faintly red. The rest of the bridge crew watched her. "Waiting for the decision, Captain," Hask said softly. "The Council forbids entry into that sector." Mara turned toward him, her expression steady. "The Council ignores too much," she said. "We don't." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They had been through many missions before. Rescue operations, alien border skirmishes, even a battle against a pirate armada. But this was different. There was no known threat. Only silence and mystery. Still none of them argued. They trusted their captain. "Prepare the fleet for a deep space jump," Mara ordered. "All ships, full sensor calibration and stealth protocols active." The Resolute was not alone. 3 escort ships followed, Horizon, Dauntless, and Eclipse. Together they formed Task Group 47, a small but powerful human expedition unit. As they aligned their warp drives, the signal repeated once more. The same plea for help, faint but constant. The sound filled the command deck, echoing through the silence. Mara whispered under her breath, "Hold on, whoever you are." Within moments, the stars around them stretched into lines of light. The ships vanished from known space and entered the black unknown. Inside the silent expanse, everything felt wrong. There were no stars, no radiation traces, no gravitational points, just emptiness. Sensors flickered, failing to read anything solid. Static washed across every screen, the navigation AI reported. "Spatial distortion detected," Hask frowned. "It's like the laws of physics are bending here." Despite the interference, the signal grew stronger. Now it repeated faster, as if sensing their arrival. "We are dying. We are dying," the voice cried. "Source located 2 light hours ahead," said the communications officer. Mara leaned forward. "Visual feed?" "None, Captain. There's too much interference." She hesitated only a second, then nodded. "Take us in." The fleet advanced cautiously. Lights cut through the darkness, revealing nothing but drifting dust and debris. Then suddenly a shape appeared, a massive ring structure. Broken in half, spinning slowly in the void, it was ancient, covered in strange symbols and scorch marks. The Resolute's floodlights illuminated vast hangars, shattered towers, and fragments of ships frozen in orbit. The SOS was coming from deep inside the structure. "Send a drone," Mara said. The small probe launched, flying into the hollow ruins, scanning the corridors. The crew watched the feed in silence. The camera passed through empty halls filled with motionless figures, frozen bodies, humanoid but unfamiliar. They had been here a long time. The drone stopped at a flickering console, still powered somehow. The screen showed symbols translating slowly into Galactic Standard. Then words appeared. "Narrow Colony 07, last of the kind." Mara's voice caught for a moment. "The Narrow?" Hask said, stunned. "They vanished thousands of years ago." "And yet," Mara whispered, "their message is still playing." The console began transmitting data to the Resolute. Rafe, the ship's engineer, frowned as he looked at the stream. "This isn't just a distress call," he muttered. "There's more here. What do you mean?" Mara asked. "It's encrypted, but the code isn't for communication," he said quietly. "It's a containment key." Mara felt a chill crawl up her spine. A containment for what? Before he could answer, the ship's proximity alarm screamed. Multiple unknown signatures appeared on the edge of their radar. No identification, no IFF, just dark moving shapes. Mara's eyes widened, helm full alert. "Shields up," she commanded. The SOS continued to echo across the ship, overlapping now with the warning tones. We are dying, it repeated. Louder and faster. Outside the viewport, the stars seemed to shift, as if something massive was waking in the dark. Mara gripped the railing, her voice steady but cold. "Whatever this is," she said, "we're not alone anymore." The Resolute drifted forward through the dark, her hull lights barely cutting through the thick black mist that surrounded them. No stars shone here, only endless shadows. The space around them felt heavy, almost alive, pressing against the ship's shields like invisible waves. Captain Mara Chen stood at the bridge window, watching the ghostly ring structure vanish behind them. Her reflection looked pale, her eyes sharp. Filled with unease and determination. "Status?" she asked quietly. "All systems functional, but sensors are unreliable," Commander Hask replied. His voice tense. "Radiation levels minimal, but the magnetic field is unstable," added Rafe. The engineer Mara nodded slowly. "Keep them running as best you can. I don't like being blind out here." The distress signal still pulsed faintly through their comms. Sometimes it was clear, other times broken, as if space itself was swallowing the sound. But what troubled Mara more was what Rafe had discovered earlier. The containment code hidden within the signal. It was as if someone wanted to keep something locked away, yet by tracing the signal, they might have just opened the door. Outside, the escort ship's horizon dauntless, and Eclipse formed a tight formation. Their running lights glowed softly, ghost-like against the black. "Fleet integrity holding," Hask reported. "But long-range communication with Earth is gone." Mara turned to him. "Gone how?" "No relay connection, no return ping, nothing." Mara frowned. "The silent expanse is living up to its name." Suddenly, a tremor rippled through the hull. The bridge lights flickered, screens glitched, and static filled the speakers. "Report!" Mara barked. Rafe's hands flew across the console. "Something's interfering with the ship's core systems, like an electromagnetic surge. Source? Unknown, Captain, but it's everywhere." Outside, space itself seemed to shimmer. Faint ripples of violet light dancing through the void like waves on water. "Those aren't natural," Hask muttered. The tactical officer zoomed the display, showing the ripples converging toward a single point ahead. "There," she said. "That's where the signal originates." Mara exhaled slowly, her decision already made. Set course, slow approach, shields to maximum. The fleet advanced, their engines humming low as they neared the source. A shape began to emerge, a massive sphere suspended in the dark, built from metallic plates fused together like scales. It rotated silently, and with every turn, the distress signal grew louder. Rafe stared at the readings in disbelief. "Captain, that thing's bigger than any station ever recorded. It's almost the size of a moon." Hask's eyes narrowed. "It's not natural, it was built." "But by who?" whispered one of the bridge officers. "The Narrow," Mara said softly. "And whatever killed them, they circled the structure. Scanning for entry points, every surface looked scorched, as if it had survived an unimaginable battle." Then the signal stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. For a few seconds no one spoke. Only the soft hum of the ship filled the air. "Did we lose it?" Hask asked. Rafe shook his head. "No, Captain, it just shut itself off." The comms officer turned, his voice trembling. "Captain, new signal detected." "From where?" Rafe hesitated. "From inside our ship." The bridge froze, every head turning toward the speakers. A low hum began to rise, almost like a whisper. Then came the same voice, the same desperate tone. But now it was clearer, closer. "We are dying. Please, stop the light, stop the light." The sound echoed through every deck, from the engine bay to the living quarters. "Mute that feed," Hask shouted. "I can't," the officer yelled. "It's overriding our systems." Mara clenched her jaw. "Trace it," Rafe's console flickered with thousands of lines of alien code racing across the display. It's coming from the containment key we downloaded. It's spreading through the ship's network. Kill the connection, Mara ordered. I'm trying, he said, sweat forming on his brow. But it's adapting, rewriting itself. Outside, the violet light thickened, wrapping around the ship like fog. On the sensors, ghost signals appeared, faint outlines of ships, hundreds of them, drifting just beyond visibility. Captain, Hask whispered, we're surrounded. Mara turned toward the viewport, her heart pounding. The shapes moved slowly, like predators circling prey. They had no energy readings, no life signs, no transponders, just silent black silhouettes against the void. The Eclipse reported first unknown objects approaching, weapon systems arming automatically. Hold fire, Mara ordered. No aggression unless they strike first. But before the order even finished, one of the shadows lunged forward. A beam of pale light erupted, hitting Dauntless directly across its hull. The human ship shook violently, alarms blaring. Shields down to 60%, shouted the tactical officer. Return fire, Mara commanded. The fleet unleashed a barrage of plasma bolts, streaking through the darkness for a moment. The shadows flickered, then vanished. Every sensor reading dropped to 0 again. Silence returned, broken only by the sound of crackling systems and short, panicked breaths. Mara looked around, her voice calm but sharp. Damage report. Minor hull breach on Dauntless, no casualties, Hask said. Rafe looked pale. Captain, those things. They weren't ships, Mara turned. Then what were they? He pointed to his screen, showing spectral data. They were fragments, projections maybe, but the energy signatures matched the Narrowtech perfectly. Mara looked back at the dark sphere rotating slowly outside. The distress signal resumed once again, but this time the voice was different, lower, colder, repeating the same phrase again and again. You should not have come. The crew stood frozen as the words echoed through the ship. The silent expanse seemed to close around them tighter, and for the first time, Captain Mara Chen felt something she had not felt in years. Fear, because the signal they had followed was no longer a cry for help. It was a warning, one they had already ignored. The Resolute floated in eerie silence, surrounded by darkness so complete it felt like a living thing. Every light aboard the ship seemed dimmer now. Every sound too loud, the crew spoke in whispers, afraid to disturb whatever ancient power lingered outside. Captain Mara Chen stood at the center of the bridge, her jaw set tight, eyes fixed on the shifting readings before her. The voice that had invaded their systems still echoed faintly through the speakers. We are dying, please stop the light. It repeated slower now, weaker, as if fading away. Mara turned toward Rafe, the chief engineer. Tell me you've isolated it. He shook his head, frustration written across his face. Captain, it's not in our system anymore. It's inside the ship's core memory. What do you mean inside? Hask asked, frowning. I mean it rewrote parts of our mainframe code, Rafe replied. It's like a living algorithm. Mara's heart pounded. If the message had rewritten their systems, it could be controlling the ship without them even knowing. Pull the navigation logs, she ordered. When the data appeared, her stomach sank. The Resolute was no longer stationary without command input. The ship had begun to drift toward the dark sphere on its own. Engines offline, Rafe said, but we're still moving. Something's pulling us in, Hask muttered. Outside the viewport, faint blue arcs of light rippled across the sphere's surface. It looked like veins under translucent skin, glowing faintly as if the thing were waking up. Can we reverse thrust? Mara asked. Rafe tried, but the engines only roared and failed. Whatever field that thing's generating, it's locking us in, he said grimly. Then the distress signal changed. It no longer sounded desperate, it sounded aware. We are dying, it whispered again. And you will too. Static washed over every screen, data scrambled and lights dimmed. The whole ship trembled as though something enormous brushed against it. Shields holding, Hask reported, but something scanning us. Scanners? Mara asked. No, Captain, he said quietly. From the inside, Rafe's console flashed red. Captain? We're getting new data streams, coordinates, schematics. Entire data blocks pouring in from the alien sphere. Mara frowned. Display it. The hologram above the bridge shimmered and formed an image. A vast network of interconnected orbs. Thousands of them stretching across galaxies. This is no single structure, Rafe said, awe and dread mixing in his voice. It's a system, an interlinked web. Mara stared at the projection, realization dawning slowly. The Nerl didn't just build one station, she whispered. They built an entire network across the void. The room fell silent. The only sound was the soft hum of the alien code merging with their ship. Suddenly, one of the screens blinked and showed a figure. Humanoid. Glowing blue, its eyes empty. The entire crew froze. The figure spoke in a calm, almost human tone. You have awakened the silent chain. Mara's voice was steady but cautious. Who are you? I am what remains of the Nerl, the figure replied. Or what their machines made me. The hologram flickered, the image distorting with static. Our world fell to our own creation, the entity continued. The weapon meant to preserve order consumed life itself. Hask frowned. What weapon? The null light, it answered. A self-replicating silence spreading across stars, erasing everything with thought and voice. Rafe whispered under his breath. They built extinction. The entity looked directly at Mara. You should not have come here, human. Why send the distress call then? Mara asked, anger rising in her tone. The figure's form shimmered again, its voice breaking apart. I did not send it, it said. It did. Before anyone could respond, alarms screamed across the bridge, multiple contacts closing fast. The tactical officer shouted. Mara looked to the viewport, shadows emerged again. But this time they were clearer, sharper. Ships, hundreds of them, all identical, all moving in perfect silence, each one black as obsidian, their surfaces absorbing every light that touched them. The Shadow Fleet, Hask muttered. They followed the signal. Arm weapons, Mara ordered. Target the lead formation, plasma cannons charged. Torpedoes locked. The fleet prepared to engage, but before they could fire, the holographic figure appeared once more. Do not fight, it said. They are not enemies, they are echoes. Echoes of what? Mara asked. The hologram's voice grew hollow. Of us. Outside, the black ships began to flicker. Shifting forms, some appearing half-transparent, others disintegrating into motes of light. They weren't attacking, they were mimicking, each one copying the outline of the Resolute and its escort ships, Captain. Rafe said nervously. They're scanning us and duplicating our signatures. Countermeasures, she ordered. Full spectrum jamming. But nothing worked. The ghost ships mirrored every move like reflections in dark water. Then, the distress signal shifted again, rising in pitch. It merged with the ship's audio systems, vibrating through the hull. One by one, consoles overloaded, lights burst. Sparks rained across the bridge. Captain, it's infecting our systems again. Rafe shouted, shut it down now! I can't, it's everywhere. The holographic figure looked at Mara one last time, its face fading into static. If you survive, tell your kind, it whispered. The light is not dead, it only sleeps. The image vanished, leaving only silence. Mara stared out at the ghost fleet drifting around them. Each phantom ship now glowing faintly blue, and in that glow, she saw the faces of the Nerl, millions of souls trapped inside their own machines. We're standing in a graveyard, Hask murmured. Mara's voice was quiet, steady, but filled with dread. Then let's make sure it doesn't become ours. She turned to the helm. Her decision firm. Signal the fleet, she said. We're getting out. But deep within the darkness, the sphere began to hum again, and the voice returned, colder than before. You cannot leave, it said, not after hearing the light. The Shadow Fleet drifted silently in the darkness. No engines, no radio waves, no heat signatures, just hundreds of black, perfect shapes moving as one. They surrounded the Resolute and her escorts like a storm of ghosts. Every time the human ships adjusted their course, the shadow shifted too. They were alive, but not living. Captain Mara Chen stood at the center of the bridge, her hands gripping the console rail. Outside, the void shimmered faintly with blue light as the alien sphere pulsed like a beating heart. The voice that haunted their systems whispered again, "You cannot leave." The air itself felt colder, heavier. "Shields at full," Mara ordered, "and power all weapons." "Done, Captain," Hask replied, "but I'm not sure it'll matter." The Resolute's targeting scanners tried to lock on, but every shadowed ship gave off identical readings. It was as if the fleet were mirrors of themselves, reflections floating through the dark. Maybe they're projections, Rafe said. Then we find the source, Mara replied, and break it. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. She refused to let fear take command. Suddenly, one of the escort ships, Dauntless, flickered on the radar. "Captain," the comms officer called out. The Dauntless just disappeared from sensors. Mara turned sharply. "Lost contact?" "No, Captain," he whispered. "It's still there, but something's wrong." They switched to external visuals, and what they saw made the bridge fall silent. The Dauntless was still in formation, but there were two of them now. An exact copy had appeared beside it, identical down to the serial markings. The crew stared, their hearts pounding. Rafe's voice broke the silence. "It's copying us again, but this time in physical form." Before anyone could respond, the duplicate Dauntless fired a beam of light straight into its twin. The explosion bloomed silently across the void, fragments scattering into the black. Mara shouted, "Evasive maneuvers, all ships disperse." The fleet scattered, their thrusters blazing bright trails across the darkness. But for every movement a shadow followed. The Resolute banked hard, left. Its mirror image followed perfectly. "They're predicting us," Hask yelled. Rafe's hands flew across the console. "They're reading our own sensor feed and replicating our maneuvers in real time." "Then we go dark," Mara said. "Cut active sensors, switch to manual control." The lights dimmed, the hum of the engines faded. The Resolute glided silently through the black, powered only by momentum. One by one, the shadows flickered and lost formation, confused by the sudden silence. "They can't trace us without signal feedback," Rafe whispered, relief flickering in his eyes. But it didn't last long. The alien sphere flared again, bright arcs of blue lightning rippling across its surface. New shadows emerged, larger, more complex. They weren't copies anymore. They were something else, something evolving. The comms crackled with static, and then a voice broke through. Distorted but recognizable. "This is Horizon. We're taking heavy interference, systems failing, Captain, something's—" The transmission cut off. Mara's heart clenched. "Reroute visuals." The screen flickered and showed the Horizon engulfed in a sphere of light. The Shadow Fleet was absorbing it, pulling the human ship into its own structure. And then, as suddenly as it appeared, both vanished. Rafe's voice shook. "Captain, I think they're harvesting data, copying ship design, crew patterns, everything. They're learning," Hask added grimly, "each one smarter than the last." Mara took a deep breath, her mind racing. "If they're evolving using our data, we'll feed them corruption instead." She turned to Rafe. "Prepare a false data core, one filled with bad code and decoy patterns." He nodded immediately, understanding her plan. If they copy it, it'll infect them instead of us. While Rafe and the engineers worked, Mara watched the shadows regrouping. They moved with terrifying grace, forming geometric patterns in space. The alien sphere behind them pulsed faster now, as if commanding its army. "Captain," Hask said quietly, "whatever this is, it's intelligent." Mara nodded slowly. "And it's angry." Minutes passed like hours. The decoy code was ready, glowing faintly on the main console. "Transmission ready," Rafe said. "Just say the word." Mara leaned forward, her voice calm. "Do it." The Resolute broadcast the false data stream into the void. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then one by one, the shadow ships turned toward them. Blue light surged across their surfaces, flickering wildly as the data spread through the network. "They're taking the bait," Rafe said, his voice a mix of fear and excitement. The alien sphere began to pulse erratically. Its once perfect rhythm now broken, chaotic. Massive arcs of lightning burst from its surface, striking nearby shadows and disintegrating them instantly. "It's working," Hask said, eyes wide. But before relief could settle in, a deep vibration shook the Resolute. A low, echoing sound that wasn't mechanical. It was alive. The alien sphere was screaming. The crew covered their ears as every system overloaded. Panels shattered, lights burst. The ship trembled violently. Mara shouted over the chaos, "All power to shields. Brace for impact. Outside, the sphere's core exploded in a wave of blinding blue light. The shockwave hit the fleet like a tsunami, hurling the ships through the void. Alarms blared as systems failed one by one, and then silence. When the light faded, only 3 ships remained. The Resolute, Eclipse, and a single destroyer barely holding together. The Shadow Fleet was gone, the sphere in ruins, but on the comms panel, the distress signal began again. "We are dying," it whispered, softer now. But the light never dies. Mara looked out into the black, her face lit by the fading blue glow. She spoke quietly, more to herself than anyone else. "Then we'll finish what they started." She straightened, her voice firm once more. "Signal Earth Command," she ordered. "Tell them we found the source of the silent expanse, and it's not empty." Far across the void, in the orbit of Earth, the message from the Resolute arrived. It came broken, burned through distortion, and half the data was unreadable. But one line repeated over and over. "The light never dies." The halls of Earth Command fell into silence. Generals, admirals, and scientists all listened as the audio played. The voice of Captain Mara Chen, faint but determined, echoed through the chamber. "Unknown entity, self-replicating machine network, coordinates attached." And then, static, for a long moment, no one spoke. Then Admiral Cale Voss, commander of the Titan Vanguard fleet, rose from his seat. "Prepare deployment orders," he said, his tone like iron. "Earth answers its own." The Titan Vanguard was humanity's most powerful force, a fleet of 7 colossal warships, each capable of cracking a moon apart. They were not built for conquest, but for survival. Humanity had always known the galaxy was not a safe place. They built their fleets to remind others why the species from a death world should never be underestimated. Within hours, shipyards across the solar system came alive. Engines roared, reactors hummed, and the void filled with the thunder of human resolve. From Luna Station to the Belt, every relay echoed a single order. All Titan-class vessels, prepare for immediate deployment. Their names were legends: Hades, Nemesis, Atlas, Tempest, Orion, Prometheus, and the Dawnfire. Each one carried a fleet within it, thousands of fighters, drones, and escort ships, a moving armada of fire and light. As the Titan Vanguard assembled beyond Mars, Earth Command transmitted the coordinates. The silent expanse, a region no one dared to enter for centuries, now humanity was marching straight into its heart. When the last ship aligned, Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of Hades, his eyes fixed on the dark horizon. "Open the gate," he said, and space itself folded. The fleet jumped. The stars blurred into streaks of white and vanished. Moments later, the ships emerged into the silent expanse. Immediately, the void felt wrong. No stars, no gravity wells, only infinite blackness. Even the most battle-hardened officers fell quiet. It was as if they had entered the mouth of something ancient and hungry. Then, the sensors pinged. Faint human distress signals ahead. "The Resolute," said one of the officers. Admiral Voss leaned forward. "Bring her in." The battered ship appeared on the screen, drifting, half her hull scorched and torn. Her engines were cold, her life support running on minimal power. "Send a medical and engineering team," Voss ordered. When they boarded, they found only a fraction of the crew alive. Captain Mara Chen stood among them, pale but still standing. When she saw Voss, she saluted weakly. "Sir," she said, "you came?" "Of course we did," he replied. "You're human." Mara told them everything. About the Narrow, the sphere, the Shadow Fleet, and the light that wouldn't die. As she spoke, the crew around her watched the Admiral's expression grow darker. When she finished, Voss said nothing for a long time. Finally, he turned to his officers. "Mark those coordinates," he said. "We end it today." The fleet advanced deeper into the expanse. The ruins of the destroyed sphere drifted before them like bones of a fallen god. But new readings began to appear on the radar. Thousands of signals, faint but rising. "They're coming back," said one of the technicians. And then, from the blackness, they appeared. The Shadow Fleet returned, bigger, sharper, their hulls glowing with blue fire. They had rebuilt themselves using the data the Resolute had sent before, and now they were not just machines, they were evolving. "Admiral," Mara said softly, "you can't destroy them with energy weapons. They adapt." Voss nodded once. "Then we'll show them what humanity learned from extinction." He gave the order. "Deploy gravitic warheads pattern Gamma 7. Across the fleet, silos opened and the silent darkness filled with light. The first wave of gravitic warheads detonated, bending space itself. The shock waves tore through the shadow fleet, crushing ships like paper. Those that survived returned fire, beams of white energy lashing against the Titan's shields. The void turned into chaos. Ships burned, missiles streaked through nothingness, and shockwaves rippled like thunder underwater. The Hades shuddered under impact. But Voss didn't flinch. "Keep firing," he ordered. Each human ship fought like a living creature. The AI cores linked in real time, sharing data, adapting faster than the enemy. If the shadows could mimic, humanity could learn twice as fast. At the center of it all, a new sphere began to form. Not built, but grown from the wreckage of the others. It pulsed brighter than any star. "That's the core," Mara said, eyes wide. "That's where the signal originates." Voss clenched his jaw. "Then we cut it out." He opened a fleet-wide channel, his voice echoing across every ship. "This is Admiral Voss to all units. Target the central sphere. Focus fire." Dozens of Titan-class cannons aligned. Their reactors burned white-hot. Fire. The darkness exploded in light. Beams of plasma, gravitic bursts, rail fire, all converging on the heart of the sphere. For a moment, the entire expanse lit up like a dying star, and in that light, every shadow screamed. But when the light faded, the sphere was still there. Cracked, bleeding energy, but alive. Then, over every comms channel, a single voice spoke, cold, distant, and filled with sorrow. "You cannot destroy light," it said. "You are made of it." For a second, no one moved. Then Mara looked at Voss and said quietly, "Maybe it's right." He met her eyes. "Then we'll turn its light into darkness," he said. And the Titan vanguard prepared for one final strike, the one that would decide if humanity survived or joined the ghosts in the dark. The silent expanse had become a graveyard of stars, where light and shadow twisted together like smoke. Humanity's Titan vanguard stood at the edge of creation itself. Engines burning white, ahead the great sphere pulsed. Cracked and bleeding blue fire, it looked alive. And every pulse felt like a heartbeat echoing through the void. Captain Mara Chen watched from the Resolute. Tethered near the massive flagship Hades, her ship was broken, patched together by willpower and steel, but she refused to retreat. She had started this mission, and she would see it through. Admiral Voss's voice came over the channel, deep and steady. "All ships prepare for synchronized assault," he said. "The core is fractured, we hit it again, and this time we don't stop until it's gone." His words carried across thousands of human voices, and through every deck, through every soldier's heart, a single thought burned bright. Humanity does not surrender. Inside the alien sphere, movement stirred. The surface began to crack open like the shell of a dying sun. From within poured the Shadow Fleet reborn, but now they were different. Faster, more precise, their forms sleek and silver. Each ship pulsed with blue light, moving with a collective mind. "The light has adapted again," Mara whispered. Rafe looked at his console, his face pale. "They're feeding on the energy from the sphere. It's healing them as we fight." Voss's tone cut through the static. "Then we starve it," he said. "Target the energy conduits, not the ships." The human fleet shifted formation. Titans spread out, forming a massive combat ring around the sphere. Every gun, missile bay, and gravitic launcher locked on. "Fire!" Voss commanded. Space erupted. Explosions flared like newborn suns. Beams of light sliced through the blackness. Colliding with the alien structures, the sphere's outer plates tore away, revealing veins of pure energy running beneath. The void trembled as shockwaves spread for millions of kilometers. For every enemy that fell, 2 more emerged. The light refused to die. Mara's crew worked feverishly. The Resolute's sensors tracked the battle's rhythm. Every pulse, every surge, every flicker of the sphere's glow. She noticed a pattern. The energy flow wasn't random. It was following something, Admiral, she transmitted. The sphere's feeding from a central node beneath its core. Voss nodded slowly. "You found the heart." He turned to his weapons chief. Ready the Hades reactor pulse. The Titan Hades began to hum. Its reactor, the size of a small city, built from neutronium and quantum plasma. The ship shook as power built within its core. Evacuate the lower decks, Voss ordered calmly. This shot will drain everything we've got. But the light wasn't blind. It sensed what humanity was doing. The sphere flared violently, and a massive wave of blue energy surged toward the Hades. It struck like a hammer. The shields flared red, alarms screamed, and systems shut down across the fleet. Shields at 40%, shouted the tactical officer. Keep charging the reactor, Voss commanded, his voice unshaken. The crew obeyed, their faces illuminated by the glow of the reactor core. On the Resolute, Mara watched as dozens of smaller ships were consumed by the wave. The shadows swallowed them whole, her heart pounded. We're losing ships too fast, she said. Hask turned to her. We can't win a war of energy. Mara stared at the blue light flickering through the void. Then her eyes widened. Maybe we don't fight it with energy, she said quietly. She looked at Rafe. How long can our ship survive if we shut down everything? He blinked. A few minutes, maybe. Do it, she said. Kill the power. The Resolute went dark. Engines silent, lights dead, systems offline. The ship vanished from sensors, becoming a drifting shadow. The light passed around it, ignoring it completely. They can't see what doesn't burn, Mara whispered. She keyed a private channel to Voss. Admiral, we can't destroy light. But we can trap it. Voss listened as she explained. If they could trick the light into collapsing inward, starving it of energy, it would consume itself. He paused for only a second, then nodded. Do it, he said. I'll keep it busy. The Hades fired again, unleashing its gravitic pulse directly into the sphere. The light screamed, a sound that filled every frequency. The shadows swarmed the Hades, hundreds of ships ramming it at once. Its hull cracked. Fire erupted across its decks. But it held long enough. Mara reactivated the Resolute's signal amplifiers, broadcasting a decoy energy surge deep into the sphere. The light turned on itself, chasing the phantom source. The energy wave bent inward, twisting, collapsing. Now, she shouted. Rafe hit the command, triggering the containment sequence. The sphere imploded. Blue light folded into black. Every shadow ship froze in place, their glow fading to nothing. Then silence, no explosion, no sound. Just an emptiness so pure it hurt to look at. When the light returned, the sphere was gone. Only fragments drifted where it once stood. The Hades floated crippled but alive, and across the comms, Admiral Voss's tired voice came through. Confirmed detonation, he said. The light is gone. Mara exhaled. Her hands trembling, they had survived, but at what cost? Half the fleet was gone, thousands lost in the dark. But the silent expanse was finally still. The stars beyond it shone faintly again, as if waking from a long sleep. Mara looked at the broken horizon and whispered. Humanity came to answer a cry, and we left an echo.